bigots across the South revived the time-honored tradition of lynchings, and Southern governors and sheriffs led violent attacks using pressure hoses and dogs against peaceful protests. As violence and backlash increased in the early 1960s, a new breed of leaders emerged. The goals of the new generation of leaders were more focused than those of the old more focused than the old generation. These men, among the Stokely Carmichael, Malcolm X, Eldridge Cleaver, Bobby Seals, and Huey Newton. Now, one thing to mention here: Malcolm X is the obvious omission. Right? Remember, I told you in a document-based question, they're always going to leave somebody that you would think should be out, or you think should be in there out. Now, Martin Luther King is in there. So you would think in the 60s, we're talking about civil rights, Martin Luther King is clearly there, right? But nowhere in the documents does it mention Malcolm X. And Malcolm X is kind of the symbol of the later 60s militant, angry, kind of willing to use violent, black power sort of 60s, late 60s, northern urban militancy that they're talking about here, right? So that's what we would call an obvious omission. Bobby Seale there not mentioned, Huey Newton, no. Urged Americans to embrace black, what is it? What? Blacks. And give them justice and peace. But they also urged a greater economic opportunity for blacks and a stronger black community. They urged investment in the black community, as well as a new system of banking and business. Groups like the Black Panthers formed and issued plans. The plans included 10 points, all of which urged greater economic equality and justice in the U.S. as something. Now, I can tell you this, don't worry too much about your paper not being legible. If they can't read it, they'll hire a handwriting expert. So if they can't read it, some of you a ways, that's good news for you. They'll hire a handwriting expert. At the same time, though, the new leaders used different means to achieve their ends. At a speech 2 years ago, I heard Eldridge Cleaver describe the firefights with police and embrace the violence he took part in. The Black Panthers became militant, as did the Nation of Islam. Both groups urged black armament, for that would become an, what do you think? Unofficial race war in America. In the Black Panther Party newsletter, guns were offered at wholesale prices, and leaders urged total armament of every black male. No longer were blacks involved in legal activities to bring about justice and equality. Many were violating the law, and the federal government distanced itself from the activities of these groups. While the backlash was much greater than in the nonviolent early 60s, and the KKK increased its deplorable attacks on blacks. Many of the Panthers were arrested, frequently on gun charges, and governments, state, local, and federal, were forced to crack down on a new breed of civil rights agitators. Support on all levels dropped, and this new breed likely harmed the civil rights push more than it helped it. In conclusion, we can see that the struggle began in the late 60s, underwent a significant change that began in the late 50s, underwent a significant change in the 60s. While the goals of the movement remained similar, the means to achieve them changed greatly. As the 60s wore on, support for the movement as a whole sank, just as the means to achieve civil rights it crawled into the gutter. Now, if I just said to you, what do you think about this paper?
I think it's good.
On a scale to 1 to 15, yes.
I just have a question. Are you allowed to use first person?
No, you're not supposed to.
Oh.
But I will say this, this paper, at the time they gave a scale of 1 to 15, now they do 1 to 9. This was a 15.
Wow.
So this is a 15. Now, I mean, what this person does is what you have to do. What they do is incorporate outside information with the use of the documents. Now, I would say this person is lucky. Clearly, if they are attending a speech by Eldridge, they're interested in this, right? You know, so if you're going to this speech, you have an interest in this to begin with. So this person is lucky they got it. But I do think it shows you how to blend, and it's not perfect. I mean, the thesis is a little awkward, you know. I mean, there's bumps in the writing. There's maybe a little inconsistency from time to time. It's not perfect. It doesn't have to be perfect. What this is really, really good. You don't have to write a perfect paper to get a 9. You have to write a really, really good one. There can be minor mistakes. There's minor mistakes here. 1961 is not when that Civil Rights was passed. That Civil Rights Act was passed. Yes, go ahead.
Can we, like, this wasn't really like a set, like, 5-paragraph essay.
No.
Can we do it randomly, like, not randomly, but have, like, a different focus for paragraphs?
Yes. I think what you want to do, the biggest thing that you want to do is fully respond to all aspects of the question. Do what the question asks you to do. When I'm done reading this, can I say that this person analyzed those 3 things?
Oh, yes.
Yes. Right? Did they use the documents? Yes. Did they provide outside information? Yes. Is it perfect? Absolutely not. Absolutely perfect. Could you people do this? Yes. Right? You could. You could do this. You could write, how about if I say this? You could write an imperfect paper. Right? I know you could. I know you could write an imperfect paper.
No.
So you can write an imperfect paper. You could do this. Right? You could do it. All of you could do it. Now, does anybody have any questions about this or anything that we talked, anything about this paper, the test, anything that we talked about? Anybody? Yes.
Our test on Thursday, does it go all the way through, like, everything that the AP test goes through? Or
Yeah, but there's not a lot of questions
Okay.
beyond, I mean, there may be things about this, you know, so that's good. Some things about the Cold War,
All right.
you know. I mean, there's a couple random questions that you have absolutely no chance of answering. Right? Now, I mean, and the reason for that is that's the same as the AP test. I mean, there have been questions about the sitcom All in the Family on the AP test. I don't care how many years I had to teach this course, I would never mention that in class. All right, so there's always random questions you're not going to have any ideas. There'll be a few like that, yes.
Is it graded like the
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Yes, yeah. So then you 1/4 of a point off, round it in your favor, 70%'s an A. And then down from there. And then when you come here, after you take that test at the end of the day, I'll have it for you, and then we'll go over it page by page. Now, what I won't have for you is what grade you got. That will drive you crazy. You'll say, well, what does this mean? What does this mean? I won't answer. Then, you know, when you come back on Monday, we'll go over the grade on that test and work that all out. But no time for that. We'll just go page by page and review the things that you don't know. This has been, I'm sorry I kept you over 5 minutes. I'm sorry I didn't have those forms for you at the top. This has been a wondrous review session. I mean, it was very, very good. Thank you for your time.